size and requirements, the one thing that they have in common is that they all come from the education sector. So we help those educational organisations to improve the way they attract parents, pupils, customers, clients, but also staff. So a number of our organisations that we work with are looking to recruit. So some of what we'll touch on today may be useful for recruiting staff as well. In terms of the way that we do that, we have unrivaled market intelligence. We've been doing this for about 24 years now. We've got about 360 media options that we use each year, although that list has changed quite significantly year on year. And we run about 5,000 different campaigns. So some of those are out of home, some of those are digital, some of those are around branding and research and understanding target audiences. But those 5,000 campaigns give us quite a healthy data set to understand the current marketplace. Today, we will be going through the following 4 areas. So we'll talk a little bit about understanding the current social media landscape. We'll talk a bit about developing engaging content strategies. We'll talk about some of those content types that are available at the moment and their levels of effectiveness. And then finally, we'll be talking about how do you measure success. So how do you measure engagement and how do you measure the reach of your social media? In terms of making the most out of today, we do have some free resources, so visit our website to download those. Feel free to interrupt. There's a chat box in the bottom right-hand corner, so feel free to interrupt by asking some questions as we go. And we're also going to send a copy of the recording across to everybody that has registered. So if you have to drop out at a certain point, or you'd just like to play back part of the masterclass, we'll make sure that we send a copy across to you once the masterclass is finished. And then once you've done all those things, if you're still wanting some help around social media, do feel free to book in a meeting with us, and we'd be very happy to help in any way that we can. So let's start off by talking a little bit about understanding the current social media landscape. So at the moment, what this chart is showing is the number of users in early 2024 for each of the different platforms that are available to you. As you can see, Facebook is doing incredibly well still, but some of the interesting things that are coming up are position 2, 4, and 5 are video platforms. So there's been quite a substantial increase in the use of video platforms for social media. Facebook is still doing very well, as I say. So Facebook and Instagram, both being part of Meta, has become a very popular platform for people building their online social media presence for schools and other educational organizations because of that significant number of people using the platform. In terms of what we're seeing as new trends in 2024, there's been quite a healthy increase in influencer partnerships. So you may well have come across this for other sectors, in particular for things like e-commerce, where people are pushing particular products. But influencer partnerships for schools and in particular state schools and independent schools, but also trusts in the UK, has really started to kind of grow in the last 6 to 12 months. So we're seeing that schools are partnering with thought leadership experts. So that might be with particular teachers that have an online presence. It might even be students, alumni, or industry experts. One of the things that we've seen over quite a longer period of time has been thought leadership on platforms like LinkedIn from head teachers, a member of SLT, to help promote out some of the things that a school might be doing. That's only really kind of reaching a tipping point in terms of working to a certain degree very recently. I think a lot of that's because for LinkedIn, it takes time to build a following, it takes time to build engagement for people, and those that have stuck with it, in particular head teachers, are finding that some of those projects are actually now paying dividends. They're able to influence things, they're able to influence people, they're able to influence how education works through sharing some of their knowledge and some of the things that have been trialing over the last few years. The important thing for partnering with those influencers is really about picking those that are trusted and are reliable. The good thing about social media is there's the ability to look back over previous content. There's an ability to look back and see who's engaging with that content, who is commenting on it, what are those comments about, and are those influencers reaching your target audience? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to change perceptions? Are you trying to kind of grow your brand? Are you just trying to kind of get involved in something so that you're part of a community online, and you might be using that to your advantage in the future? So quite an interesting trend, one that I don't think a lot of people would have expected. A little bit out of the blue there. Um, Within higher education in particular, there's been quite a shift towards user-generated content, but some schools are really getting on board with this. So using content created by students within their social media. It tends to be a little bit rougher around the edges in terms of branding, in terms of how polished it is for obvious reasons, but it is typically trusted more by your target audience. So this could be quite a good one if you have a sixth form, for example, or you're catering to older students who might be influencing the decision on where they go to school. So those schools that are using user-generated content, they are encouraging students actively to share on social media information about their school, and they are also sharing with those students some of the things that they might want to be getting across in terms of values, and some of the things they might be getting across in terms of the environment and the things that set them apart. That's quite a difficult balance to do. You don't want to be kind of pushing them too much so that it then becomes more corporate style, but you might want to influence them so that there's a bit of a golden thread running through that user-generated content. A really useful tool for attracting new students, but also a really good tool for building an authentic brand. You can be taking some of that content, and you could be weaving it into what you're doing for your marketing. Personalized content. This is going to be quite a difficult one for a lot of people to do. It's very popular in other sectors. We're seeing a bit of a trend in terms of schools trying to do this. So they're targeting ideal students based on their interests and their online behavior. AI is playing a big part in this. So more of an automated process. It never would have been possible to do this in the past without a vast amount of work. But by building personas, by building target profiles online using AI and then targeting those people, what are their interests, what are they looking for, where are they based, you can really be very precise in personalized content. So content that is unique for a very small segment of your target audience is now a possibility for many schools. It's now a more cost-effective way. It's quite a complicated one. So if this is something that you might be interested in finding out a little bit more, do feel free to email me back after the session, and I can book in a conversation just to go through it, and I can maybe show you some examples of what people are doing. I think that a trend that's being slowly building in commonality really has been building more of a brand through social media. I think the reason for this is because a lot of people for a number of years within the education sector, in particular schools, they weren't really sure where to start with social media. There's been quite a significant change in the number of platforms available. There's been quite a significant change in what's on trend, what's not in trend, what are parents using, what are potential pupils using, what are potential customers using. So one of the things that I think is really positive is there's been a bit of stability in the last year or so, and that's allowed people to pick platforms and stick to those platforms, and therefore build a bit of a brand, build a bit of a reputation on a platform that works for them. Consistent posting is a massive part of this. We typically see people posting about 3 times a week, and potentially topping that up with less branded content. So that might be user generated. That might be things from teachers or staff, or say you're a nursery school, for example. It might be content that's fairly rough around the edges, taken by the people that are working in those nursery rooms. But the thing is that they all have something in common. They're showing off core elements of a brand so that that brand positioning is repeated time and time again. I think that going back to the slide showing the rise of some of those video platforms, it makes sense that more and more people are using those video platforms to market themselves out to potential parents and potential students. So one of the most common trends at the moment would be to use short form video. So not long corporate videos, but very short format videos for platforms such as TikTok. The issue with TikTok is it's quite broad in terms of targeting. But if you do get a video that is interesting and it's engaging, it's relatively easy to get some kind of traction there. So from my point of view, I think the thing that you would need to be considering is how do you get outside of that initial bubble? How do you create short form videos that are relevant for people who aren't current parents, aren't people currently engaged with your own brand? The best way to do that is to provide information, is to provide something that is of interest to people. And I would be looking at other content from other sectors to see what they're doing. Tech is particularly good at this. So what quick tips are they sharing on short video forms to get engagement with people outside their initial budget, their initial bubble? For that engaging content, it's quite difficult to come up with ideas by yourself. So a good tip would be to maybe share some of your thinking around it with your target audience. Talk to them about what they find useful. Talk to them about the kind of videos that they watch. Are they tips and tricks about supporting their children with education? Are they tips and tricks about picking the right school? What kind of things are they? So that you can start off knowing that you're using content that is going to be engaging, that's going to be relevant to your target audience. You could be participating in similar kind of content, challenges, things that people are doing online already on TikTok. You need to be a little bit careful that you're still protecting your brand image. And it's quite difficult to do that and remain fun and engaging. But it isn't impossible to do. So do think about how you're going to balance that professional image, the fact that you are a school, with that fun element, that engaging element that's required to make people share and engage with your videos. And then showcase school life, show what happens on a day-to-day basis. It's really great to have careers videos, school videos, things like that on your website, but showcasing school life is really important. It is the kind of thing that gives a more authentic feel to your brand. If you need some examples of that, do feel free to email me, and I'll have a look at some short form videos that we really like and some of the short form videos that are working well on platforms like TikTok and Instagram as well. Instagram is quite a popular platform at the moment for storytelling. So it's nice to have that visual engaging content on there. If you've got any talking over the top, if you've got any narrating of it, make sure that you put some subtitles on there so that people can watch your videos when perhaps they're not able to have their volume on. But do use stories, do use Reels, Instagram TV. They are growing in popularity over the last 2 years or so. And potentially they're a more polished way of getting across your brand image, getting across engaging content without using platforms like TikTok, which you might be feeling is perhaps a step too far for your branding. Does anybody have any questions about the current social media landscape and some of the trends that are forming? Perfect. So what do you do with this knowledge? The first step really is to come up with a strategy, come up with a plan for how you're going to develop engaging content. I think that's easier said than done. So let's look at some of the things that you could do in terms of a process. The first one is to look at your target audience. So really understand that target audience. Where do they spend their time? What are they sharing? What are they engaging with? What are they reading? What are they looking at? What are they pausing on when they're scrolling through social media? It's not always this easy, but I would would suggest going to talk to your target audience about this, because it is the best way. If those people are going to be engaging with you, they've got the time to do that, talk to them about that, find out what's relevant for them, find out what they're looking at online, especially if you're looking for a new platform. If you're considering something like Instagram, or you're considering short form video, talk to them about the kind of video content that they would engage with, what's important to them, what are their pain points. That will help you really understand your target audience, and then you can be creating content that solves some of those pain points, or maybe just alleviate some of that stress. So that might be, for example, around a lot of your target audience being confused about funding for a nursery. It might be them struggling to help a child transition to sixth form, whatever it might be. You can then create content with your current staff to understand a little bit better what those pain points are, and how you as a school would be supporting them if they were to attend your school through those difficult challenges. You can then tailor that content for those people. In terms of engaging with that audience, I think that building a community online is a slow process, but the best tip that I can really provide is to do it regularly, rather than find time maybe in a half term, spend 6 hours in the week on it, and then not do anything until the next holiday. Set aside 10-15 minutes a day, and do a little bit every day to build that community, rather than trying to do everything in one go. For platforms like LinkedIn, they do penalize you for sending too much in one go. You're limited on what you can do each day in terms of sending emails, inviting people to follow you as a school. So a little bit every day works really well. You might be a little bit afraid of user-generated content as a school, but do consider, especially when you're recruiting for things like sixth form, colleges, and so on and so forth, do consider how important it is for those potential pupils to hear from people of a similar age, or people who have been through a similar situation as them, so that they've got that trust there. You'll see this from a lot of other sectors as well. It works very well to make an authentic brand. It works very well to engage with the right target audience. Once you've identified that target audience, once you've identified how you're going to engage with them, you then need to reach those people. So use a mix of channels. Initially, you might want to start off with 1 or 2 channels, but do consider how you're going to grow that over time. Content can be reused, although it's frustrating to kind of have to resize it and make sure that it's going to physically fit on those platforms. It can be used across multiple channels. So adding an initial channel to your strategy, it might not be as difficult as you had presumed, but keep the messaging, the tone, the visuals consistent across all those channels. Whether somebody clicks on your Twitter, whether they click on your LinkedIn, whether they click on your Instagram, make sure that branding, that feel is identical. You might want to put a bit of a twist on it. For example, for LinkedIn, you might be sharing content more relevant to people looking for a new job, more relevant to people looking for your employer brand, but still keep those visuals, those tone of voices for each post the same, and that messaging to have the same core to it. So if part of your employer brand, but also your corporate brand, is around high levels of high quality teaching, then you need to be getting that across in your employer brand, perhaps on LinkedIn, and also on your other channels in terms of attracting potential parents. The only way that you're going to really be able to improve is to track the results. So start off by monitoring your initial engagement levels, your reach, your conversions into when people are getting through to a website. Are they registering perhaps for open days? Are they completing forms? Are they engaging with your content? So track all of that. And not only will that help you to know what's working well and what's not working well, is also a bit more motivational than just posting content and not knowing whether things have improved over time. It's nice to be able to look back a year later and say, things have shifted from X, Y, and Z position. We're now here. It's not necessarily complete. These things never are, but it's 50, 60, 100% better than it was a year ago. And then refine things. If you're sharing content and it's not engaging with the right target audience, it's not converting, consider what you could be doing and pulling from that data to adjust your content so it is more engaging. I think that in terms of segmentation, it is important to consider that the people that you're trying to attract, they won't just fit into one box. Try and build at least three target audiences in terms of the personas. Where are people at different stages in their life? Are they in a physical location that's different? And part of the way that you can do that at the moment, because of the way that you can kind of target people, is kind of considering the way that they think, the way that they kind of operate. So what are their interests? What are their academic interests? What could you be showing within your curriculum, within some of the strengths of your school that will be relevant for those people? What's your approach to teaching? Are the people that are within your target audience attracted to a particular style of teaching? Do they believe in the power of music and sport to be able to help with topics like maths and science? If so, you need to be sharing content that backs that story up. You need to be showing real life examples of how that works within your school. And then the values that you have, they need to be connecting with the values that your target audience has. So they may well already align in terms of you've got the right sets of values, but it's how you describe those values, it's how you show those values in reality that's really important. So user-generated content is really great for that. So if community is part of your values and part of your culture, how could you be getting that across? How could you be getting across community from a day-to-day basis? What does that mean for staff? What does that mean for pupils? What does that mean on a Friday afternoon when perhaps everybody's tired or it's been a long few weeks? How does that impact people within your particular school? And then consider their behaviours. This is quite a difficult challenge to do in many ways, but it is possible to go onto social media platforms and see how your target audience is engaging. As I mentioned earlier, you might want to actually be talking to people. So you could be talking to people about the way they interact with social media channels. What are they liking? What are they sharing? What are they pausing to read? Are they attending events? Are they attending virtual open days? Are they attending in-person open days? Are they registering for those things through social media? Or are they reading about those things? Are they being educated about those things on social media? And then prioritize your end goal. So are you looking for people to inquire? Are you looking for people to enroll? Are you looking for people that want initial support and then you're going to convert them further down the line? Consider about those behaviors from people for social media so that you can be building a strategy that is appropriate. Does anybody have any questions at all about developing an engaging strategy for social media? This is just an example of how tracking could look. So you could be looking at the number of sessions, how long people are engaging with your website content based on where they've come from. So as this is a fairly good example, you can see that people from Instagram are typically having a longer session on a website than when they come through from LinkedIn. The bounce rate in terms of the number of people that click through and then click straight off is fairly consistent across the board. And you can see the number of people that are completing a goal. So for most people on the call today, that's going to be completing a form. You can see that that varies quite significantly in terms of the conversions that you're getting depending on the platform. So by measuring this, if you do have to cut down or you're using too many platforms, for example, you can see which ones to focus more time on. So what kind of content types are there that you could be using? I think the thing is that there are a lot of platforms out there. The key to success is really to have a good mix rather than just picking one. So a well-rounded content strategy is going to have to include blogs, going to have to include videos, going to have to include strong visuals, so infographics, example. It's important though that those things are tailored to your target audience. I think that each of those formats are going to provide a unique advantage over each other. So consider what those advantages are. Some might be better for educating people about your brand. Some might be good about educating your educational style or your approach to learning. And some might be really good for gaining conversions in terms of form completions. And then make sure that as you go, you diversify, you try new things, you research the strengths of each of the different formats you can have, and this will really help you to maximize that engagement and that reach, and therefore help you hit some of the goals you might have set for social media. So if you're using social media for 2 hours a week, it's quite a heavy investment. What are your goals? What does it need to be delivering for you in a year's time to be classed as successful? So the thing to take away from this, I think, really is to consider that you need to have diverse channels, but you also need to be having diverse content. You need to be trying new things so that you're keeping on top of some of those trends and you're still relevant for your target audience in 6 months' time, a year's time, 18 months' time. I talked quite a bit about measuring engagement. I do think that setting smart goals for social media content is really important. So make sure that you're tracking things that are measurable, which social media is. So therefore set a goal that is measurable. Is it to have X number of followers? Is it to have X number increase, percentage increase in terms of engagement? Or is it for conversions? Is it for populating an open day? Is it for educating a certain number of people, and therefore you're looking for impressions? For reach, this is the number of unique users who see your content. Platforms are going to allow you to track this. It's really important because it gives you an idea of the size of your target audience that you're reaching. You might know roughly from demographic data how big your target audience is, where you do have that knowledge. So in your local area, the number of parents with children of a suitable age, you could be looking at how many people are you reaching? Where are you reaching in terms of geography? Is your reach on social media too wide? Is it too narrow? Is it targeting the wrong area completely? Have a look at that reach, see where it is, try and really understand it so that you can adjust it. And potentially you could be using some paid for options if you're not on the right track to help you get back on track. You could be paying to promote some content to your right target audience so that you increase the number of followers that you have and therefore the engagement and the reach that you have in the future. There's a number of ways to measure engagement. As you can see, there's quite a few. The most common really in terms of engagement is typically likes, comments and shares, but click-through rate is going to be really important. What percentage of people are clicking through to your website, clicking through to your landing pages, clicking through to those forms, clicking through to email you or call you, whatever it might be that your call to action is. Emotions are through the reactions. Those emotions are increasing in terms of popularity on platforms, so you can be measuring those as well. How are people reacting to your content? Is it very positive? Are people taking the right impression from it? And is anybody starting to mention you as a brand within their own social media, whether that's current staff, whether that's current pupils, whether that's alumni, or whether that's people completely outside of that stakeholder group? So new people that have seen your content, are they sharing it? Are they mentioning you? Are they engaging with you through that kind of mentioning of either some of your thought leaders or your actual profiles as a school? And are you receiving direct messages? Are people asking you questions through social media? That's definitely been a trend for a lot of people. It's a useful platform for people to be able to very quickly reach out when they're perhaps passive, they're not actively looking for a new school, they're not necessarily considering a new job, they're not necessarily considering independent school or sending their child to a trust or a federation, whatever it might be. So where they can quickly look at content and they can directly message you, you are going to see an increase in engagement with passive people. So consider how you're going to approach that, but do track it as well. How many of those direct messages are you getting? And then really importantly, track the conversions. If you're doing all of this and it's raising brand awareness, that's really great. But it is important you're also trialing different things that leads to conversions. So you're getting people registering for open days, you're getting people inquire, you're getting people actually registering for the school, and look at where those conversions are coming from, which platforms are they coming from. When you get to the point where that's working, you could also be doing some A/B testing so that you can be trialing different landing pages, for example. You could be targeting different audiences in terms of the content that you're putting out there, and seeing how those conversions change. I think if you track enough data, you can test a wide range of things, and you can really see the impact that it has. So these are all the different elements that I had to go through today. Does anybody have any questions for me at all about social media and schools? What we'll do is we will share the recording from today. As I mentioned right back at the beginning, do feel free to have a look at some of the resources that we have. Do feel free to come back to us when we share the recording and book in a free consultation. If we can help in any way, we have lots of blogs, but if we can help in any way that we haven't shared content about a particular topic, do feel free to email us, whether it's now, whether it's over half term, whether it's over the summer, whenever it might be. Do feel free to email us, and if we've got the information, we'll happily share it with you. But thank you all very much for attending today.